We're going to talk about temporary internet and remote workforce solutions. We're going to talk a little bit about a POTS marketing plan also as we get further into it. And our marketing director, Mary Curry, is going to walk through that because she designed it, and she can talk about not only the design of the package, but also how to sort of send it out to your client base and some of the client targeting that we put on that. So I'm excited to introduce another expert from BroadSky to talk about this. What I've noticed on these webinars is I do 95% of them, but BroadSky is a deep bench company. Each department is run by an expert, and we're all working together to get wireless out on a quality basis, but also market it properly so that we're getting to the right people. And so, Mary's been here since January of last year. Our look and feel has improved tremendously over that period of time. The messaging has improved tremendously, and there's also some fantastic research we've done on the POT side to find out where the opportunities are. All of those things are representative of the marketing department, which used to be run by Maureen and I, and so it's so much better now. But also, right? But also,
Yep.
The sensibility I'm trying to get across on these webinars and get into the partner community is that we've been doing this a long time, and we're very good at this. And it isn't so much that we're very good at this because we've been doing it for 17 years, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. BroadSky the only thing we do is wireless. All we do is connect people via the cellular networks. We do a little bit of satellite, that is our roots, but 99% of what we do is doing this, and it's hard. And in order to do this properly from the marketing side and the engineering side and the sales side and the quality control side, you have to have an entire team. And so I'm excited to get more voices on these webinars to sort of reflect that depth. It's not just some sales guy saying, hey, you could go sell this and make some money, which is fine, but there's reasoning behind it, and there's sort of a process behind it. And that's important. As you pick your vendors during troubled times, stability and depth becomes more important than ever, in our opinion. Okay. So let's get started. So a little bit about BroadSky. Like I said, we've been doing this since 2003. We're headquartered in Bend, Oregon. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list now 3 years in a row. That's a reflection of two things. One, the technology really grew up over the last 4 years. I started doing this in 2014, and from 2014 to 2020, speeds are about 5 times faster. The ability to support applications is better. The ability to gain signal across the country is better if you have a process for it. So the technology grew up, and we grew up alongside of it. Since this is a sales partner focused webinar, I just want to go ahead and say this. You can deploy this at one site, and that's nice, but BroadSky's largest customers bill out over $100,000 a month. This is not a cute sidebar thing. You could build an entire agency around this. Every customer needs backup. Every customer needs backup, like full stop. Everyone's moving to UCaaS, everyone's moving to CCaaS, and everyone needs to get to the cloud, particularly during these times. And so if you look at your entire installed base and you say, I could put a wireless backup that works at every location in the next 3 months, my customers would have easier access to the cloud to make sure they never go down, and my MRC under management would go up. It's a great chance to launch a conversation back into your existing base. Okay, we won the Channel Futures Award in 2019, which was nice. It's nice to have outside recognition of some of the work you've been doing. And then two things I also want to bring up. BroadSky is a family of companies. The two other companies of the BroadSky family are TechLink, which is our field services network. This is a white glove install network. If you would like to take our technology and have it hand delivered and hand installed, either because that's what the client likes, or because you need to do, say, 100 sites over a 2-week period and they just don't have field resources to pull that off, then we can do that for you. Also, as a sidebar, BroadSky does offer installation as a service. Installation as a service is where we can not only put wireless equipment in, but also do VoIP phones, digital signage, all manner of technology installations can be handled from BroadSky installation as a service. And then finally, TechLink Solutions Development, which is a software development firm that provides key applications for businesses and also does our custom software design. So that's sort of the BroadSky family of companies. Today's agenda is this. We're going to talk about rapid deployment. Obviously, it's topical. People are sending their employees home. And we're seeing the sort of the net effect of that. Everyone went home and scrambled for any connectivity. And now what we're seeing is that the rules of wireless haven't changed, and people are running into quality issues, security issues, performance issues, and the regulatory agencies haven't changed their rules. So if you want to talk about HIPAA, or you want to talk about FINRA, which is what governs banking institutions, it's a subset of the rules from the SEC. If you handle money in any way, shape, or form, you can't be on a home network. The home network isn't secure enough when you start dialing into your customers' bank accounts and executing trades on their behalf, or dialing into your own accounts and executing trades. You have to have something that's still secure end to end. Also, we want to talk about the high demand for temporary or pop-up internet. If I want to tie that to a trend, you know, retail right now is in big trouble, and retail brick and mortar is, you know, 25% to 30% of the stores around the country are closed right now. What percentage of those stores are going to reopen? What percentage of people are going to just present their product in a mall and wait for traffic to show up versus bundling their product up and taking it out to where people are going to be? Now, we don't know where people are going to be, but at some point this madness is going to end. And companies are going to pick up their product and they're going to take it to where people gather. Festivals, gatherings, music, you know, the most famous are, you know, obviously the Coachellas of the world, but these things happen all the time. And what companies are doing is taking a really elegant marketing presentation, I guess, or installation, I guess is what I'd call it. And they're taking it to these things, they pop it up, and then they conduct business for 2 or 3 days for brand awareness and to make sales. During that time, they need the same internet performance they would need as if they'd been at the location for 2 years. Well, how do we do that? BroadSky can do that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then instant remote workforce, I sort of talked about that a little bit. Why the solutions that are going out in the field right now are proving to fail, and they're proving to fail for the same reasons they've always proven to fail. They're not engineered properly, and then we'll get into Q&A. So that is today's agenda. So why does quality matter? Temporary internet, remote workforce, or failed deployments. You know, 3 requirements. 1, it needs to go out fast. 2, it needs to be secure. And then 3, it needs to work out of the box. You can't send 100 people home and then send a home internet solution that fails 40% out of the box. You're just going to get deluged with, it doesn't work, I can't get on, it's not working, the VPN tunnel isn't working, I can't get into the corporate intranet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this send home and conduct business concept now doesn't work because the employees actually aren't getting on the internet. As a subset of that, every company has what we'll go ahead and term high value employees. The corporate executives, the designers, the IT people, the people who are getting into the corporate finance. So if all your accounting people are at home and they're going into the bank account and they're going into the corporate pay platform, if you will, are those people on a secure internet connection, or are they on a home network? Home networks are easily hackable. There's a million tutorials on how to tunnel into your average Wi-Fi router at home and how to place a bug on it, how to put a keystroke logger on it, and all of a sudden that information is being exposed to any hacker that drives by. So anyone who's accessing sensitive information at a company, or anyone who needs absolutely critical high value always on internet, which I would include again, the executives, the designers, the IT staff, the people who are, you know, we all kind of know who we're talking about here. The people who absolutely produce for the company and always have to have internet on. These are the people that make the most sense to have their own dedicated internet connection that's solely served to them, that is also secure. So here's how we approach every solution. This is a bit of a dense slide, but at the same time, what we're outlining here are the quality standards that have been built up over time. And if you kind of look down the right-hand column, essentially what you're seeing is the end result, but also kind of the learning curve. We've been at this since 2003. LTE took off in 2014. What we found over time, if we have to support customers in every location all across the country, is there's a set of quality measures that have to go along with every installation. Otherwise, you just get deluged with poor quality complaints and loss of connectivity, and you end up with failed deployments. And so kind of one of the things I say at BroadSky is we're not necessarily smarter than everybody. We've just gone through the learning curve, and we try not to make the same mistake twice. So we're always on top of the latest technology and when things improve, and then we put that improvement into our sort of overall quality standard to make sure it works everywhere. And that's the key for us. It needs to work everywhere. So, you know, our tagline is we make wireless work, and there's a gold standard for wireless, and we feel that we've set it. Not because we're making it up, but because we deploy and manage thousands and thousands of routers across the country. So going down the right-hand side, what do we need to end up with? We need to have fast speed, low latency, and high signal. How do we do that? BroadSky maps every address for best carrier. And that's critically important for deploying a good nationwide wireless solution. We literally look at every address and we map it to who is the best carrier at that address. If you don't do this, you will end up with the wrong carrier at the wrong address, and it just won't work. Now, if you go to a carrier map, they will show you coverage everywhere. We've all seen the carrier maps, and those carrier maps are just not accurate. BroadSky drills far further into the quality metrics using two tools that are not generally available. One, we know where the towers are. This is not public information, but it is available to us because we're a large volume buyer. So we know where the towers are for every address, and we can pick closest tower. Two, we can actually go to RouteNet. There's open source crowdsourcing showing speed tests that have been done at most addresses across the country. So if you're on your phone and you conduct a speed test, that gets recorded and it goes into a database. We can look up all of those speed tests at an address and see which carrier real world is actually performing right now. So never mind maps, we're going to the actual data. And between those two tools, I guess I'll call them, that's how you pick the best carrier and get the best overall performance. I've seen, and I'll just arbitrarily pick these out, I've seen AT&T pull down 12 meg at one location and T-Mobile pull down 41 meg at the same location. Both of them showed excellent signal strength on the maps. Or it could be the reverse. I've seen AT&T pull down 50 and T-Mobile get 6. Picking the right carrier is the key to this. Having access to multiple carriers is the key to this. If you're just deploying on one carrier, you're going to have a significant fail rate. We've proven that out over a 6-year period. It's never going to change. The carriers always have weird coverage gaps, and you have to know which carrier to put it on. Second thing we do is we put two SIMs in every router. So when we send it out, it has the primary carrier on, but it also has a secondary SIM inside. And that gives us the ability to try both carriers at a location to get the best signal. Then on the latest equipment technology, we didn't go too far into the weeds on this, but wireless routers are now coming out in differing quality standards. And that's defined as category 4, category 6, category 12, category 18. We're not going to drill too far into this, but what it speaks to is how many different frequencies that router can see off the tower. Towers now broadcast on 13 to 18 different frequencies in order to deliver signal. You need to deploy a router in the field that can see all available frequencies. At a minimum, that's what's called a Cat6 router. Anything underneath Cat6 won't see all available frequencies, and therefore you won't get good signal. Most MiFi, hotspot, cheap routers, I'm going to call them, anything that you would spend 100, 150 bucks on is not going to see all those frequencies. They have a slower category 4 chipset, which means you could have all the signal in the world, but the router can't actually see it. And if it can't see it, it can't pick it up and it can't give you good internet. So we made a decision a long time ago. Category 6 is the minimum level that we'll deploy. And then you can get into Cat 11, Cat 12, Cat 18, where they start combining 4 frequencies together to get even greater speeds. So for those of you interested in details, we'd love to talk about it. For those of you just interested in more concepts, BroadSky is putting the latest technology out there on the best carrier to get the best signal in every location all across the country. That's how you end up with high quality. All right, then the last 3 points, no overages in data management. This is the other big one when you're putting these all over the place. You have to have insight into how much data you're using and is it matching up to your expected usage. Wireless is not on the consumption model yet. It's still on the buy it in a package and then turn around and use the amount of gigs against your estimated usage. We're very versed in this. One, we allow you to take all your locations and pool them all together so that every device shares from a common pool. That's for deployments 5 sites and above. And then second, we give you in-month reporting from 2 different platforms. One, you can get into a backend portal and see your usage at any location at any time. Or 2, we send out alerts showing if a location is using more data than expected based on parameters that we set up with you, so that you can be alerted in month that something is amiss. One anecdote I'll give is we were put in as the backup for an SD-WAN. The SD-WAN was programmed incorrectly to send all traffic over BroadSky as opposed to sending traffic only in a failover event. They ran 45 gig through the circuit in the first week. They got an alert. They said, you know, guys, is this what you want to do? They came back and said, no, it was programmed incorrectly. We fixed it. Thank you for catching that. If we hadn't caught that, that was going to run up to a 200, 250 gig usage amount that they wouldn't have seen until the following month using traditional methods. But using our methods, we caught it early. So if you don't have data reporting and data management, then you really don't have a wireless solution. And so that's the next piece of the puzzle. Does it work, but also does it stay within costs? Because if it doesn't, people are going to stop using it. Cross-carrier pooling, I already mentioned that, but regardless of underlying carrier, we put everything into one common pool. And so everyone draws from one pool. So, you know, you have 300 sites on a 1 gig plan, they end up with a 300 gig pool. Everyone draws from that common pool. And then finally, zero CapEx options, particularly in times when people are looking to conserve cash. We bundle this as a service. So it includes the router, and I use the word router, but a router means router with a wireless modem inside of it, that category 6 chipset I was talking about, which acquires a signal and then does handoff. These are powerful routers. They easily set up your VPN tunnels. They easily support your UCAS, CCAS. They absolutely support your VoIP. This is a business grade tool that when you fail over to it, it will work as if you're on your primary internet connection. And that's really the key. We're not failing over to support some of our applications. We're failing over to support all of our applications. And so in summary, I know I spent a lot of time on it, but this is why our customers are so happy. And this is why when you get a 300 site deployment, when they deploy the first 20, it works and they keep going. In the alternative, if you don't have this, then you deploy the first 20 and 30% don't work right, and the VPN tunnels don't execute, and then somebody uses too much data, and the whole project gets put on hold. And so we think we're doing a 300 site rollout, but you get to 20 and then you run into just a host of problems. That's what we see happening when you don't deploy all of these quality measures on the right-hand side, AKA when you deploy with some of our competitors who haven't hit this standard. As opposed to that, that's why we roll out multi-site applications all the time. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that, but it's really important to us, so thank you for bearing with me on that. I'm looking forward to any questions you may have on the gold standard. All right, next slide. So opportunities, temporary internet, or what we call pop-up temporary networks, rapid deployment wireless. There's different flavors of this. One, the classic flavor would be my fiber was going to be installed on April 20th, but now I just found out it's not going to be installed till May 23rd. What do I do? They're moving in 3 days. We fill that gap all the time. So you ordered a wireless internet circuit from BroadSky. We send it out. They run their entire business on it for a month. When the fiber gets installed, you convert us to a backup, and now we've solved that problem. We've taken an emergency, horrible situation and turned it into a manageable situation, in a period of 48 hours. I can't tell you how many times that we've solved that problem. And I anticipate we'll solve it many times in the future because construction dates continue to keep getting put out. So that's one. Another one I would point to would be natural disaster sites or events where all of a sudden a large amount of people are congregating in one place in a short period of time and they all need internet. And then mobile healthcare, either pop-up or mobile. So if we're all of a sudden going to do a pop-up clinic for a period of 5 days, or we're going to take a mobile dentistry truck or a mobile healthcare apparatus, I guess I'll just call it. Anything where you're taking the healthcare into the community versus having people go to a central site, they need internet that works, that has high upload speed, and by the way, is HIPAA compliant. And so, because the HIPAA rules don't change just because you're mobile in the community, you still have to comply with all those regulations. We do. The third one I touched on in sort of my opening remarks was pop-up retail and events. When we go back to normal again, companies are now taking their product to the people versus trying to drag people to the product. And when you set these up, these are $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 installations that they set up and run for a period of 3 days. That internet needs to work exactly the same as if they were in the mall or in their corporate headquarters. And so we provide that solution. And then finally, probably, I think this is our second or third largest business unit, construction. Construction/oil and gas, we'll kind of put those together. I think that's number 2 and number 3 at BroadSky. Number 1 is backup at every location. Number 2 and number 3 are construction sites and oil and gas. Construction sites by definition are going where infrastructure isn't. The second thing to note about that is that they're digging holes everywhere, and so the fiber lines or whatever terrestrial based internet you brought in gets cut frequently. So instead, we install a router in the construction trailer. It works flawlessly. They're on site for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months or however long it is. They pick that trailer up, they move it to the next site. The router is still in it. They pick up internet at their new location and they're back in business again. So we're solving one problem over and over and over again. I'll give you one anecdote on that. I have a company in South Florida who has 50 of these with us, but they've moved them something like 175 times now. They just move it from site to site to site. They've been with us for 5 years. And this was the solution they came to after getting their lines cut constantly, basically. Oil and gas is a separate opportunity. If anyone has any exposure to the oil and gas markets, please call us. This is a different solution set. It requires a router set that is much more ruggedized than your standard in-office router. It needs to take DC power. It needs to be what's called Class 1 Div 2, which means it can operate in spark environments. If you have a lot of oil fumes around, that's a regulation we hit. And then it needs to be rugged. We have these in the field that are operating in 140-degree temperatures and -20 temperatures, and they've been running now for 3 years. We monitor pipelines, we monitor exchanges, we monitor storage tanks, we monitor solar grids, we monitor windmills, we monitor all kinds of power installations, I guess I'll call them. Power tends to be where people aren't. You don't drill for oil in downtown Manhattan, you drill for oil in the middle of nowhere, but you still need that same signal. Wind towers, solar installations tend to be put in remote areas where there's no infrastructure. They put the wind towers where the wind is, not where the internet is. They put the solar where they're allowed to build it. We bring the internet to those installations. So if you have any exposure to the oil market, gas market, solar market, wind market, or electrical grid distribution market, we definitely have a solution for you. Okay. So just a little more flavor on pop-up temporary networks. This one on the upper left-hand corner, unfortunately, is topical right now. These field hospitals that are going up, they need internet and they need secure internet. We're not running this on a $75 MiFi device. That's just not happening. And then just some different flavors of construction sites in the lower left-hand corner, disasters and pop-up retail. You see this thing that Adidas put out there. They put a lot of money into that installation. And so how do you have enough internet to make that installation look right? Okay. Then I mentioned some of these, sorry, there's a siren going by. I mentioned some of these regulations, but I'm gonna go ahead and highlight them over on the right-hand corner. You still must comply with HIPAA. That's the medical regulation. FINRA or SEC, those are the regulations from the banking and stock exchange industry that state that you must have certain security protocols if you're going to access your own financial information or your customers' financial information. And we support all IPsec VPN tunnels, which is somewhat considered the gold standard for secure VPN transmissions. Our routers support all of these, and we hit all these regulations. The bandwidth is fast. In the Cat6 world, we're consistently hitting 30 to 40 meg down using the gold standard. If you get up into the Cat18 world, where we're bonding 4 frequencies together, we're starting to see 100 meg download speeds fairly consistently. Those have to be engineered more, but if you need real speed, if there's any perception that wireless is slow, please dispel that. Wireless is fast if engineered properly. Plus, we can get it there quickly, and we can support all applications on site, not just some of them. So temporary healthcare obviously is very topical right now. You have to have wireless connectivity, and it has to be robust. They're trying to get to patient data, and not only are they downloading, but if you have any sort of scanning or imaging, they have to be uploading. So if we can't just focus on download speed. Now we have to focus on upload as well, and that demands a high quality router and high quality signaling. We might even get into video. So it could be mobile, but it also could be a doctor who was in office and is now doing consultations from home. I don't want to run that on a MiFi, and from a HIPAA standpoint, I'm not sure it can be on a home network. When you consider all the vectors of attack on a home network, or just who else is on that home network. It would be better to have a dedicated internet connection solely devoted to that healthcare provider, so that they know they're in compliance and they know they have quality. And then instant remote workforce. Again, we're going to these, everyone is being sent home and working from home. Can we fulfill 100% of the at-home demand across the country? No, of course we can't. Millions of people have been sent home to work. But there is a segment of the people who have to have a dedicated internet connection, and we're starting to see this where everybody got sent home with a MiFi device. Everybody got sent home going on their home network, and now the problems are starting to arise. Either A, I can't get onto my VPN tunnels, B, it's not secure, or C, I just have too much demand because the kids are home, there's gaming going on, there's streaming going on. The home networks were not built to support corporate America. They were built for basically heavy downloading on unsecure networks, and sometimes it freezes. We've all experienced that, and we're seeing more of that now. So in opposition to that, or in contrast to that, send key people home with their own internet that supports all of their VPN tunnels and all their HIPAA and all of their SEC requirements. You know that you're safe, and you know that it works, and you can remain productive. And that's the segment of the market we're targeting, and we're suggesting that our sales partners also target. I like this graphic that Mary put together in the lower left-hand corner. We got a game controller there. I have 3 kids, so game controllers are a big part of my life. If you're on the network and somebody is also playing Call of Duty, you might not have enough internet versus giving yourself your own internet connection to just conduct business. So how are agents selling this instant remote workforce? There's just a case study on the right-hand side here. Software development company had 35 remote workers. They needed dedicated always-on internet, and they also wanted to be secure. So they sent them home using our routers. And now the developers are running on us versus whatever they had provisioned at their house. So the advantages of this: one, it's a centralized view. There's a portal that comes along with this where you can see every device and the performance of, also the usage of, and just see who's on, who's off, versus a unmanaged MiFi solution that has poor signal acquisition and absolutely no management tools at all. We're still going to provide that multi-carrier dual SIM solution. This network will be separate from the home network, so it doesn't matter what the demands are on the home network, because this is a separate dedicated internet connection. It's secure from a log-on standpoint. If people want to access Wi-Fi, we can make it Wi-Fi enabled, but it has a password on it, and that password is only provided to the end user. If they don't share it, then they are the only one that can be on that Wi-Fi network. It is not an open Wi-Fi broadcast. We can take an additional step and we can actually lock it down to the MAC address of the laptop, probably a laptop. So let's say your laptop has a MAC address. It's a specific address that says, this is my laptop. We can lock it so that only that laptop can access our router and no one else can. So it's an additional layer of security that states the only person using this is the end user. That keeps costs down and helps for security. And then you're not going to end up with 75 different bills, 100 different bills, 217 different bills, where maybe employees are paying for it and then submitting for reimbursement, or we're trying to pay the bill. It's an accounting nightmare versus one bill from BroadSky for all locations, separated by location. And again, it's all pooled under one data pool. It's a more elegant solution as if you, once we're past panic mode and we're trying to put something that actually works and works every month with a minimum of fuss, this is the solution you want. We all remember these MiFi devices, these little cards that you plugged into the side of your laptop. They never worked well. And I can tell you that the quality hasn't changed at all since 2014. It's the same exact device that it was then. They're not that fast and they're certainly not that secure. So this is a cool grid that Mary put together, just kind of a Ben Franklin side-by-side battle card, if you will. And so as I click, each one will kind of show up. So connectivity type, it's enterprise grade versus consumer grade. Signal strength, this is the strongest signal, and signal strength means speed, by the way. So if the higher the signal strength, the greater the speed. We're consistently seeing that 20 to 40 down on the Cat6 side, and we can go faster versus poor or no signal strength using an inferior device. We can get you there on either Wi-Fi or Ethernet versus a MiFi device you can only connect on Wi-Fi. And I don't believe there's passwords on those. In fact, I'm pretty sure there isn't. So in fact, there's not. I'm not uncertain, I'm certain. You connect a Wi-Fi device, anyone can jump on it, including if you're in an apartment building, your neighbors. That isn't a particularly secure, and anyone could be sharing that bandwidth. If you plug an air card in, it's just a little USB handoff device. It's pretty inferior. And then shared home networks, who is on that network? And who can see into that network and who can hack into it? Reliability standpoint, these things stand up over time. They perform all day long. A device that was manufactured for $6 tends to fail frequently. You plug it in 3-4 times and then all of a sudden it just doesn't connect anymore. And you can only put one SIM in it. So chances are people providing these are just buying from one carrier and it works or it doesn't. They have no ability to switch to the second carrier, and they have no ability to pick the best carrier for that address. Whereas, of course, as I stated before, we pick the best carrier for every address and then drop dual SIMs in every router. And then from a security standpoint, these are far more secure than some Wi-Fi, MiFi device or a shared home network where anybody could attack that router and put a keystroke logger on it. And then finally, cloud management portal. There is no cloud management portal available on any MiFi, air card, or obviously home network device versus a centralized management tool that BroadSky provides backing up all of our routers. And then finally, actual technical support. So if somebody calls in and they can't get into the VPN side, or they want to make sure their UCAS works properly, or whatever it needs to be, we've already solved that issue hundreds of times, and we'll keep solving it versus sending something out there and just hoping it works, and then getting the IT getting deluged with requests. And they're at home too. So they've lost a lot of their diagnostic tools, and people just end up in a snarl. We avoid that entire failed deployment dynamic. And then finally, on the pricing side, we've discounted, even on short-term deals, we've discounted that down for remote workers. We're also pooling devices on month-to-month. We didn't used to do that. So 10 sites or more, we'll put it all into a pool, even if it's a short-term deployment. MiFi, air card, they obviously don't pool. Also, we're seeing that there's a shortage of MiFi and air cards right now. So as the market moves towards quality, as it always does, we have a quality solution we can present. Okay. Other solutions fail. Poor speeds, runaway overages, one carrier that doesn't support that location, it doesn't pool, you can't see into your router, and it doesn't meet the regulatory requirements. I imagine on the backside of this, we're going to start seeing, and you're seeing this in news reports, where hackers are having a field day right now, trying to jump onto points of entry that they didn't previously have. As all these people go home and then get back into the sensitive corporate data environment, hackers are riding right alongside of that. They're exploiting known vulnerabilities in home networks, known vulnerabilities in open Wi-Fi broadcasts. They're jumping on and they're tunneling into what used to be a secure environment. So we need to avoid that so that we can sort of limit the damage of this stupid COVID thing into, I don't want to say just an economic problem, but let's not layer a corporate data loss problem on top of a deploy your workforce from home problem. Let's solve the work from home problem and not invite thousands of people into our corporate environment where we start getting up to all the problems that hackers do. They steal banking information, they put in ransomware, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The flip side of that, on the BroadSky side, you can't get out of the network. We can lock it down to that one point of entry from one laptop only. I imagine if you're talking to an IT security person, that will resonate with them, that no one else can get on this except for my end user. It's just not possible. And so now their security has been extended out, even into their home environment. It's fully managed and it'll work out of the box. This is something when you deploy it, they take it out, they plug it in, they turn it on, and 3 minutes later it works and they're in business, versus screwing around with it endlessly and having a 40 to 60% fail rate. So those are our remarks on pop-up internet, temporary internet, rapid deployment internet, home workforce internet. And I'm looking forward to our questions on that. And we're going to take a little bit of a turn here because we also are marketing a POTS replacement product. And we thought this was an opportune time to talk about this for two reasons. One, it's happening now. If you haven't heard about the upcoming POTS replacement frenzy, then you're hearing about it for the first time now. Here's what's happening. Copper lines are too expensive to maintain, and the carriers have been asking for relief for providing the service in any way, shape, or form for the last 5 years. They have been granted that relief, and we are actually seeing deadlines now where companies are no longer required. And when I say companies, I mean AT&T, Frontier, Windstream, CenturyLink are no longer required to offer POTS services, whereas for 30 years they've been regulated where you have to offer it everywhere. This is a sea change in the regulatory side. I got into this in '91, and that's when everyone was breaking up and the local exchange carriers were granted a monopoly, but in order to have a monopoly, they had to provide service everywhere. That's been the rules since 1991. Those rules are changing. Their second option, if they don't want to provide the services, they can provide the service at the rate the market will bear. This is going from a regulated to unregulated service. And as an example, I'm now seeing AT&T lines in the great state of Illinois. If you're located in the great state of Illinois, I would start talking to people. The POTS lines went from $50 a month to $170 a month. We offer an alternative to that. It's $55 a month, price locked for life. It replicates the functionality of a POTS line. You can use it for your alarm lines, you can use it for your fire alarm lines, you can use it for your elevator lines. This is a great time to be selling cost savings. I know other projects are being not rolled out right now, they're being delayed. This is a great time to go talk to somebody and say, while we have sort of a pause, would you like to save $100 a month on every POTS line that you administer across the country? And people will listen to that remark. This is a great time to save $100 per month per line if you're in Illinois. Pricing is changing all over the country. We have a tool to track this, and we have a marketing campaign to sort of raise awareness within your customer base. And the marketing campaign was designed by our marketing director, Mary Curry, and Mary is going to explain what she has created. So Mary, take it away.
Hi Great. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. So as Tom mentioned, our LTE POTS replacement product is gaining a lot of adoption, a lot of interest on our webinars. And if you noticed when you were registering that we asked the question, what would you like to see? And it pretty much confirmed what we know, and that's sales enablement tools. So we rolled out a failover marketing in a box kit last year, and we're trying to come up with more and more to put in our marketing in a box programs. So this is an expanded marketing in the box. So I'll just start with the first thing. That we have a solution flyer that is very easy to co-brand. You just click and put your logo in and your information. It automatically resizes your logo, so you don't have to figure out any graphics, and so you're ready to go. And the same thing also with our presentation. There's a full presentation for your customers, and it's also one-click co-branding. Also included is a battle card, full sales tools with all the tips and sales tips that we know, and that really give you a competitive advantage with our product and in this market. And along with those lines, this is really a timely time to market this product, just because a lot of the copper networks are being retired, and so end users have to replace their fire, their alarm, their voice services, their elevator communications. And so when the carriers do that, they have to file with the FCC, and they have to notify businesses. From that time, businesses or your customers have 90 days to transition. So to give you some insight into the marketing and where you could really laser focus your efforts, we've created, it's at the bottom of the screen here, we're adding these FCC notices on our website. You'll have to work with your channel managers to gain access to this if you're interested in marketing this way. You can look at it by carrier, specifically, location, and then the number of wire centers affected. Some have hundreds, some have one, it varies. So you can, choose the ones where you could have a wider marketing area. And then you can actually link to the FCC filing. So you can take a look at it and look at the area that's listed in there and where the wire centers are and where your potential customers will be. So we hope that's, very useful for you to get started. The other thing we've done is we have created some targeted email campaigns. So what's different in this marketing in a box is we really tried to think, like, how can we help our partners, target their audience? And then how can we just provide plug and play messaging for you to market to those audiences? So the three for this POTS replacement market that we came up with are property, building, facility managers, building owners, anybody who is responsible for the fire and alarms. Because by law, they have to be operational, they have to be code compliant, and so this is an excellent target market because these people have the responsibility of keeping them compliant. So number one, if the carriers are retiring their networks, they have to find a replacement. This is an excellent target market for you to go after. The second target audience that we came up with definitely are businesses that are receiving the notice of copper line retirement. So in this segment, in this campaign segment, in each of these segments, there's 3 emails. So you can do, a series of emails, or you can just simply copy and paste them into your email, whatever works for you. But once the businesses get these notices, they have 90 days to transition. So the message to this audience is a sense of urgency to transition and how it will save them money immediately. So there's a really compelling message there and call to action. And then the third one is, of course, your target audience or your existing customer base, announcing a new product that you offer, that, and the reasons why it's good, even if the carriers are not retiring their copper networks, just because of the aging network and the price increases by the carriers to maintain those aging networks, that this is a new product that you offer. So that pretty much wraps up what's in this marketing out of a box. We'll be rolling this out on Monday. It'll be available via your channel managers. And we always, I personally always welcome your feedback, and we're going to continue to improve these sales tools.
Awesome.
So back to you, Tom.
Yeah, it's from a sales perspective, this is a salesperson's dream. I cost less money and you have a deadline, so you need to do this now. This isn't an operational spend, this is an operational reduction in cost, and there's a deadline. So there's not a lot of, I'll think about it, because in 90 days in certain areas, these lines are literally going away. We should take care of this. And then the springboard for that is, as long as we're taking care of it at this location, why don't we do an audit and start taking care of every location? We can either map it up to when costs and when deadlines if you want to be under the gun for every single location, or how about we just do this now and take care of the whole thing? The other piece that we've layered onto that, and we're the only company in the country that offers this, is this POTS replacement product can also be used for an internet backup. We're provisioning this on a router, same router we've been talking about before. The router can also serve as a backup for every location. So in one swoop, we can replace the POTS lines and we can put in wireless backup at every location. One caveat to that, if we replace a fire alarm, we cannot use it for internet backup. A fire alarm is a highly regulated, highly codified, inspected piece of technology, and it has to be standalone, dedicated just to the fire alarm, and can't serve any other purpose, and it also has to have battery backup. So different technology on the fire alarm, but beyond that, I guess alarm lines fall into that same category. They have to be dedicated. But an elevator line or a standard POTS line can be used also for failover. So it's a package service with a deadline. Everyone's moving to the cloud. And so let's get internet backup in and replace the POTS lines all at once. This is a tremendous opportunity. If you were the first person to hear about SD-WAN in 2011 and no one else knew about it, how much hay could you have made over the last 9 years when you had a head start? Think of POTS replacement as SD-WAN 2011. This is a wave that is coming. People are not focusing on it right now because of all the COVID madness, but these regulations are being lifted, and the carriers have been planning on getting out of this for years. It's a great time to sell cost savings, and we're prepared to deliver this all across the country. Same solution. It works. Every fire marshal has approved this, all 50 states. Every elevator inspector has approved this, all 50 states. Every insurance company has approved this, all 50 states. This absolutely fits into the regulatory environment that demands that these POTS lines exist in the first place, because that's why they have to be there. They have to be separate from your IP network. They have to work in the event of a power outage. This is an awesome tool. Get on this FCC, this FCC information. You can start to see the rolling blackouts across the country. That obviously becomes the target geography. Okay. And then, what would a sales presentation be without a spiff? We're offering a 1x MRC match, and these are the qualifications for it. A one-time MRC match on new activations, 5 sites or more, 2-year term minimum. That can work on 5-site POTS replacement or 5-site failover or 5-site combo. So, we do 5 sites for $70 a piece, and it comes out to a $350 spiff. Okay. Or if they want that white glove installation, then we will provide a installation for that service that we're bringing in on a discount on that. So either way, the upfront payment to the sales partner or the white glove installation offered by TechLink Services. So that is the summary of our webinar today. We think it's timely, we think it's topical, either going after that remote workforce that needs quality or going after cost savings on the LTE POTS side. There's a lot of projects that have been delayed. People have they've taken their operational expenditures and they've decided, nope, we're just not doing anything right now until we have a little bit more clarity about where things are going. These products can fill the gap. They've sent everybody home. They have to have it work. And they also have to have backup at corporate, because if corporate can't get to the cloud, none of this works. So everything's going to the cloud, and you have to have at least 2 internet circuits, and one of them should be wireless because you can't cut it, or sell cost savings. This is a great time to be selling cost savings. If we can save you money and get you out of this deadline, and we have a pause in some of our other deployments, why not take care of this now? So we, Brazka is trying to be timely and topical and have products that make sense in today's environment. Will these products make sense a year from now? Absolutely, but right now, this is a great time to have a wireless solution that works in your portfolio. Okay, great. Any questions? Or if you need to reach out to somebody, and we're going to do a Q&A in just a second. We're going to run through every question that's gone on the chat box. If you want to put it in either the Q&A side or on the chat side, we'll read each question and then we'll answer every question. And then we are regionalized and have presence in every region of the country. And so please look to where you personally sit, not where your opportunity sits, but where you sit, and say, who do I reach out to? And those are the people that you would reach out to get further information, to get access to the FCC website, to get access to the LTE POTS in a box replacement, or to just shoot the breeze. We'd be happy to talk to you. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. I'm going to start on the Q&A side. In Zoom, you have two different boxes. You have the Q&A questions, and then you have the chat. And at the moment, I have 7 questions on the Q&A side, and then I have 10 questions on the chat side. I'm going to start on the Q&A side, but we're going to go at this until we've answered every question. All right. And so on the Q&A side, first question, will you be emailing a copy of the presentation? Yes. Everyone who is on the webinar will receive a copy of the presentation and also a recording of the entire webinar. So the presentation and then also the entire Q&A session. And that goes out shortly after we're done. It comes out maybe 24 to 48 hours later. It's shareable and it's usable, and all the information we presented will be on there. Why even have a Cat 4 if it doesn't see anything? It does see things. If I drill into that a little bit further, Pete, Category 4 routers see, and Bo or James, if you're on, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 13 frequencies. A Category 4 router sees 4 of them. And it doesn't see 9 of them. So can you get signal on a Cat 4 router? Yes. Can you see all available frequencies? No. You have to upgrade to Cat 6 to see all 13 available frequencies. And so that's the difference between the two. The Cat 4 just doesn't see it. It also doesn't do what's called channel bonding. A Cat 6 router will take 2 frequencies and combine them together. A Cat 4 router will not. And so, A, if you can't see that second frequency, you can't combine it. And then B, you can't combine it anyway. It either picks one or it picks the other. Whereas Cat 6 takes 2, sees 13, takes 2, bonds 2, and that you get a double download speed on that. And then the upgraded routers from there, the Cat 12 and 18, Cat 12 bonds 3, and Cat 18 bonds 4. So this is channel bonding for wireless. Same as when we used to bond T1s together. Now we're doing it on the wireless side. The other term for that is multiple in, multiple out. That's interesting to some people. I like that, but that's how you get the greater speed. So when we're starting to see 100 meg download speeds on a Category 18 router, it's because we're taking 4 of the 13 available frequencies and combining them all together. Next question from Willie is, what brand does Brazka use for equipment? We are primarily a Peplink and Cradlepoint shop. And then within that family, you can't just say Peplink and Cradlepoint anymore because both of them have been around for a long time. So Cradlepoint has routers that are Cat 4 that are still being sold today. We transitioned off those routers in 2016 and we don't deploy them ever. Obviously from 2014 to 2016, we deployed on that because that's all that was available. So we upgraded to minimum Cat 6 as of 2016. There are still cheaper Cat 4 routers from both companies being sold. So a Cradlepoint is not a Cradlepoint, it's not a Cradlepoint, and LTE doesn't mean LTE. There are different quality measures within the LTE world. We're sitting at the top. It costs less to deploy at the bottom. We're well aware of that. We just don't do it. Quality wins out every time. Quality and performance win out every time. And so the lower priced options and the lower priced carriers, we're just not going to do it. It doesn't scale. It just doesn't scale. Next question. When construction companies move routers from site to site, does TechLink have to get involved again to redeploy the router and choose the best carrier each time? Great question. No. If you have a router in a trailer, it's permanently mounted and it picks up signal from where it is. When you move it to the next site, that signal is already there. So it will work out of the box. Now, having said that, because we put 2 SIMs in there, if you're moving from one site to another, then we want the construction company to call us and say, we're at, address X right now. We're moving to address Y. And do I still have the best carrier for that, or should I switch to my other SIM? And we can give you an opinion on that in about 5 minutes. There are instances where we would ship out a different SIM. If the 2 SIMs you have in there, if neither one of them is going to perform, then we would send out the 3rd SIM. That does happen. And it's a pretty easy swap out in the field. We can instruct people on how to pull the SIM out, put the new SIM in. It comes out already enabled, and then it'll work on that SIM there. So you do not have to pay an install cost every time you move it, nor is there a fee to move it. The router is not locked to an address. The router it's a mobile asset. It's the same concept where if you put it on a truck or you put it in a mobile healthcare unit, it will work where you go. And I'm going to go ahead and mention this. We also have technology where we can actually take 2 different SIMs or 4 different SIMs and combine them all together at the same time. So not frequency bonding from one carrier, but actual carrier bonding. This is an emerging technology. We're well aware of how it works. We got some of the experimental models and the newest models that came out. This is more in the Peplink family, and it's called Speed Fusion. And it's the ability to actually pull signal from all 4 carriers and get the signal strength from all 4. It's an awesome speed tool for when you really need speed. They take a little bit longer to set up, but we have that. And when you start trending to, this device is moving around all the time, for instance, a bus, then that technology starts to come into play. Whereas you move from tower to tower to tower, you might be switching carriers constantly. And so it does it in real time, and it's always pulling down from every carrier. Okay, next question. Where do we get access? Krista asked this. Where do we get access to the co-branding items? The battle card for Broad Sky is in my CX part of Renegade. I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm guessing that's a carrier portal. But it does not display properly, so I'm unable to use that. I would also like something I could share via LinkedIn with some of my contacts. Mary, I think you asked that. Access to the co-branding items is available Monday?
Yeah, via the channel manager.
Okay, so please contact your Broad Sky channel manager and we will get it directly to you versus downloading it from elsewhere. Krista, and I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and we can definitely also work on some social posts too.
Okay. And then Ken asked, 55 a line is pricing New York. Are there discounts for multiple lines? 55 per line is pricing New York at this time. I'll submit to you, Ken, that price is going up. This story has been developing for a long time, but this is a phased rollout across the country. I'm hearing in regions of the Southeast that POTS line still costs 30 bucks. Well, if the current POTS line costs 30 bucks, then it's not currently a prospect. However, the trend on the other side of that is this. If you follow the stocks of any of these, of CenturyLink, of Verizon, of AT&T, of Frontier, who just declared bankruptcy because they supply mostly POTS lines, none of these large carriers are making money in POTS. They all want out. They desperately want out. I was a CenturyLink stockholder for a period of time, and I would read the analysis, and they would sit and talk about, we want to get out of low margin business and get into high margin business. Well, what that was a code word for was, we don't want to sell POTS anymore, and we don't want to sell equipment anymore. We want to focus on our IP network. They've been lobbying for government relief on this for 5 years, and they finally got it. So if they're at 55 a line today, I think it's going up over the next year. 55 a line is sort of a standard price point for a POTS line, but now that they're able to offer it at what the market will bear and the regulations have been lifted, that price could go to 160 bucks a line once the current contract ends. And then the other point I want to make on this is if you look at $55 for the line, also look at the regulatory fee burden on top of that. These tend to be taxed at about 20 to 23%. There's heavy, heavy taxes on POTS lines. Broad Sky only charges sales tax. So the net load is $54.95 plus sales tax, and that's it. Whereas a POTS line was going to carry universal service fee, it's going to carry E-rate, it's going to carry, these things are really heavily taxed. Every location came up with creative ways to throw a tax on these. And so is it 55 a line, or is it 55 plus 20 to 30%? So net you're ending up in the 65 to 70 range. Keep an eye on those bills. They're going up because the carriers want out. Jack asked, how do we get a copy of this? We're going to send a copy to everyone who's on the webinar, and you guys provide trials for executives. Yeah, if you need it to do a trial service, absolutely. We offer a 10 gig trial. What 10 gig means is you can put 10 gig of traffic through the circuit. We charge $80. At the end of that 10 gigs, for 30 days, whichever comes first, then the end user has a decision to make. Would they like to keep the service, in which case they sign up for any of our data plans that are available to them, or would they like to return the router, and there's no further obligation. So that's how trials work at BroadSky. How are you securing the SIM card traffic compared to a single SIM card attached to a Cradlepoint device or MiFi? How am I securing the SIM card traffic? I would answer that question, Seth, by saying this: the SIM card in and of itself is access to the carrier, and it's going to transit internet traffic. Where the security lies is in the router itself. Who has access to that router, and who has the ability to get access to that router? So you asked a SIM card attached to a Cradlepoint or MiFi. Let's focus on the MiFi first. A MiFi device is broadcasting an open internet signal that anyone can jump on. They're barely password protected or not password protected. And so if you're within range of it, you can just jump on. And now that you're on, what can you do with it? Then your other point was a SIM card attached to a Cradlepoint device. Cradlepoint should have security enabled. The question is, did the person that deployed that router to you set it up secure? Did they put a password on the Wi-Fi? Can they put a MAC address lock on it? Those are all things that need to be configured previous to deployment. If I send you a Cradlepoint device with Wi-Fi on, but it's open, then you're in the same position you would be with the MiFi. Anyone could jump on that. And once you're on an internet connection, you've tunneled straight back into the corporate IT environment. Tom asks, are we compensated on install as a service? Absolutely. Please contact your channel manager on our install as a service product. That is a comped program at BroadSky, and there's definitely an opportunity there. Steve said, definitely interested in the LTE POS replacement campaign, open to be guided. Okay, awesome. Please jump on board, Steve. The wave is coming. And then LTE POS solution, can you refresh on the approximate cost structure? Yeah, it's 55 bucks a line across the board. Price lock for life, won't go up. We only put state taxes on it. You duck all of those regulatory fees that are showing up on every other bill. And they bury them in the summary, guys. So the line will show 52, but then you have to go to tax, regulatory, whatever. This one I saw in Illinois was carrying $152 plus $7 as a fee and a line item right underneath it. But then you went up to taxes in the summary, and it was 7% telecommunications fee Illinois and 11% USF. So 152 plus 7 is 159 plus 17%. 17% of 160, that's tough math, about 20 bucks. These things came out to $180 per line. And they love to bury the fees in a separate summary. So chase down the line cost, then chase down the fees, and that's the cost per line. Is channel bounding speeds guaranteed by the carriers? No. So this is, in wireless, everything is best efforts. Everything is best effort. So one, you have to pick the strongest carrier. And then two, you have to pick up as many bands as possible. So if I have two 10 download speed frequencies available to me and I bond those with the Cat6 router, then you're gonna have 20 meg download. If you pick the wrong carrier that only has 2 and 2 available, then you'll end up with 4. So step one, pick the right carrier. Step two, make sure you're bonding at least 2 channels on a Cat6. Or 3 channels on a Cat 12 or 4 channels on a Cat 18. Or you jump to the next technology level and actually start bonding carriers, not frequencies from one carrier, but multiple carriers. And now the math on that is you're gonna get the download speed from each carrier minus about 15% for overhead. So 250 meg download circuits, 100 meg raw download, subtract 15% for overhead, now you have about 85 meg download. We've seen 125, 150. There's some tech coming that we think is going to upgrade that in the 300, 400 range as some of the governors are taking off. The speeds are getting faster, especially if you bond 4 together. It's fast, fast, fast. You have to know how to engineer it. I can't say we're the only company in the country who knows how to do it, but we've known how to do it as soon as anybody, and we've proven it in the field dozens of times already. That I can say. All right, and Seth, I missed your question. Yeah, maybe afterwards. My contact information is right up on the screen there. If you want to call me right after this, I will try to give a better answer. Can phone numbers be ported to BroadSky? Yes, if you need them to be. So if you have fax lines, this works great and we can port the number. If you have a fire alarm line or an elevator alarm line, those numbers don't need to be ported because nobody ever calls them. And so we would just provision a new number for that. The underlying technology on fire alarm, I'll go ahead and mention this. It definitely supports every 5-minute call out. So that's part of the regulatory requirements. So they'll place a call every 5 minutes to let the fire alarm monitoring company know that this fire alarm is up and active. And then of course it carries battery backup. Brian asked for POTS replacement. Is there a minimum of lines, i.e. 2? No. If you need to replace one line, then let's replace one line. You know, let's get started. As a practical matter, this is going to start with your best customer. We're going to replace one line and they're going to save $12 a month. Whoop-de-doo. But that's going to prove out the technology to you and you're going to start doing the math. If I have 4,000 sites under management and they all have 2 to 4 lines and I can save $12 to $75 per line, yeah, this is an attractive thing. I'm gonna get behind this. Also, from a prospecting standpoint, a lot of the businesses and a lot of the locations you drive by right now and think that there's no business there. That bill I was talking to you about in Illinois was from HOA. It's just a little condo. They have 7 POTS lines and they're spending $1,200 a month now. You've driven by that 1,000 times and never thought that there was any business there. There is now. Every single building you drive by has at least one POTS line because they have a fire alarm. Every single business has a fire alarm. There are no exceptions to that rule. They must have a fire alarm or they can't get insurance. That line needs to be replaced. If they have an elevator, that's 2. If they have an alarm line, that's 3. And generally there's one other one floating around out there, that's 4. So drive by a building, take it times 4, take it times $54.95, and that's the MRC possibility. Or if you want to go up market, any property management firm, anybody who's managing multiple warehouses, multiple buildings, they're generally responsible for this infrastructure. They're looking for a solution. They might have 8 elevators and they might have 2 fire alarms. So now we're looking at 10 lines on site. Hospitals have POTS lines everywhere. They ordered them willy-nilly and they're all over the place. So any hospital is going to have, depends on the size of the hospital obviously, but minimum 5 would be my guess. And they could have as many as 50. It's a target-rich environment. Okay, so that was all the questions on the Q&A side, and I'm going to move over to the chat side. And I'll go to the top, and away we go. Scott asked, can we get a copy? Yes, we'll send it to all participants. And Tom also asked that, can I get a deck? Absolutely. Why? And then we already answered that question. Why even, there was actually 3 questions of this. Why have a Cat 4 if it does not see? We did answer that one. Can we use it as primary? Pete asked that. Yes, absolutely. I kind of answer this sometimes as BroadSky is a bit of a barbell in that 80% of our deployments are used for backup and they don't have a lot of usage. 20% of our deployments are used for primary internet. So the construction companies, I'll give another anecdote here. The oil and gas companies, when they're monitoring, it's their primary internet connection. It's not a backup. They're using it for monitoring. But if you look at a temporary deployment, we will support a business that has 75 users or 200 users. Now we might have to put a faster internet connection for 200 users, or I might drop in either a bonded internet router or 2 or 3 different routers just to get the raw speeds. But yes, people use this for primary all the time. So they will run on us for a month, and then their fiber comes in, and then they convert it to a backup. Or if they're operating in an environment where they are not allowed to order a wired circuit, and this is very common. As an example, one of my bigger customers is a temporary staffing agency. They operate on site at large multinational corporations like International Paper or Toyota or et cetera. They come on site and they hire everybody for a period of time. So they're outsourced HR. However, they are not allowed onto the corporate LAN. IT directors and CIOs do not allow outside companies onto corporate LANs anymore because of security concerns. And so maybe they're given Wi-Fi access, maybe not, but the password keeps changing, they keep getting kicked off, and then Wi-Fi isn't necessarily a great way to run your own VPN tunnels for your own security. The solution to that was just they bring a router from us with them everywhere they go. And so we're sitting inside of that Toyota plant. They're running their office, but they're running it on us. And we're their primary internet provider. We call that bring your own broadband. And it's an excellent example of, there's so many businesses running their business on site somewhere else, but they need their own internet. And we close that gap all the time. Pete asked for a battle card and said, this is really good. Thank you. I'll give credit to Mary for that. Bob said, how do you overcome BroadSky versus carrier pricing? We compete directly against the carriers all the time. If you deploy on a carrier, you get a data plan, but you don't get, but then you're on your own as far as what router you're going to deploy on. And so now you have to pick the router. If you pick the wrong router, and end users pick the wrong router frequently, they tend to go lower on the quality curve. Then it doesn't work and they declare the project a failure. Or they pick the right router, but they don't set it up properly and they declare a failure, or they only buy one data plan from one provider, but that provider doesn't have coverage in 40% of their buildings. Nobody knows how to fix it. They declare it a failure. We see this all the time. Do-it-yourself deployments start to fail at about the 10th site deployed. The error rates start creeping in either from wrong carrier, wrong setup, wrong configuration, wrong placement, no access to technical support, and nobody can help them. And they get very frustrated and they quit. Kind of looking at the opposite of that, we get called into fixed deployments fairly frequently, and we're going to see more of this. You can see it coming, where people started down the path and failed, and then call us in to fix it. And what we find is that they did pick the right router, but they don't have the right carrier, and they didn't know how to troubleshoot it. And we get in and we fix it, either by fixing if they're on a Cradlepoint or Peplink, we'll just fix it for them, or we deploy the right technology and the right provider, and we make it work. We'll keep the names out of it. One of our bigger customers, they worked on it for a year and they couldn't solve it. And we came in and had it all fixed within 2 months. And this was a multiple 100-site deployment. Next question is, do you offer a special plan for partners in the strategic partner program who may want to use a business circuit? A strategic partner program, is that, I guess I'm not familiar with what that is. Does anyone on the call know what a strategic partner program is?
Tom, we're in the strategic partner program at Intelisys.
Well, that's the Intelisys program, got you. Yes, we are a member of that, and Maureen can tell you all about it. Are we getting a copy? Yes. Yes. And then Pete asked, what devices are you deploying? We're a Peplink Cradlepoint shop. We start at Cat 6 or above, and then from there we look at the application to discover what is the best technology that we're going to need for that. As an example, if I'm supporting 35 or 40 users on Wi-Fi in a building, I would probably trend towards Cradlepoint. They have a more robust Wi-Fi system to support that many users, and they have more onboard processing power to be able to support all those users accessing over Wi-Fi. It costs a little more, but that's the solution to the problem. On the flip side, if we're looking for fusion, or we're looking to take 2 carriers or 4 carriers and bond them together, then we start trending more into the Peplink family. They have solved that, and we've learned how to do it after much study. And so depending on the application, we would launch on one of those 2 sort of router families. Pete asks, who is the presenter? Me, Pete, Tom Benson, Upper Midwest. I'm in the purple. Let's see. Robert asked, hand is raised. Tom, we look at the chat Q&A. Robert, make sure I answered your question. And then Pete asked, what about the POTS aggregators? Great question. So I'll just pick, two out here. Granite and Bullseye. They're POTS aggregators. They're buying wholesale copper and then they're turning around and reselling it. Who are they buying it from? So I'm going to get a little nerdy here, but they're buying under that's called the UNEP program, Unbundled Network Elements Platform, and that's what the CLEX used as well, where you could buy copper lines with no features on them and then turn around and resell them to end users. This goes all the way back to the early 90s. Or you could buy copper lines wholesale and turn around and resell them. But you have to understand that neither Granite nor Bullseye actually owns the copper. Verizon owns the copper, Frontier owns the copper, CenturyLink owns the copper, Windstream owns the copper. Now, Frontier just went bankrupt. Windstream, I believe, Windstream went bankrupt. CenturyLink wants out. AT&T wants out. The people who actually own the copper want out. And if they don't have to provide it to end users, they don't have to provide it to anybody. They don't want to fix this anymore. They don't make any money on it. They want out. Am I saying that it's disappearing tomorrow? I'm not. Am I saying that it's regulatory trend says that copper is fading away or will be priced at what the market will bear over the next 5 years? Absolutely. There's a great trend away from this. Frank asks, can the carriers take me down to one band? No, the tower is going to broadcast on multiple bands, and then we're going to survey those and pick two, and then bond them together. There are, in rural areas, there are towers that haven't yet been upgraded to broadcasting on spread spectrum. They're upgrading those as fast as they can, but that's more of a 2017, 2018 question. These days, we are getting to seeing multiple bands being broadcast, but you got to drill into it. On the flip side, you got to drill into it. The more rural you get, the less investment has gone out there. So I'm giving averages across the country right now. You want to deploy the best technology possible. And the other thing about a Cat 6 is this: it will pick up carrier aggregation into the future. So if you're only getting one, if you're in an odd tower where it's only broadcasting on one frequency and there's just nothing to bond, when they do upgrade that tower, the Cat 6 will pick it up and start doing carrier aggregation. So there's a future-proof element to those Cat 6 routers. And then Frank asked, how does your service work with corporate VPN service? Does it impact network latency? My engineering guys can answer this better than a sales guy, but I just heard this 2 days ago. We support thousands of corporate VPNs. This is well-established technology for supporting VPNs in all flavors. SSL, IPsec. Yeah, SSL and IPsec are the two that I'm most aware of. Citrix, and on all the routers. So on SonicWall, yes. On FortiGate, yes. On Meraki, yes. We definitely support VPN tunnels, up to and including being able to change the MTU header size if the VPN tunnel has a kind of a different signaling protocol. We can adjust the MTU header size on the router to make sure that it connects. VPN tunnels are absolutely supported on BroadSky technology. That's one of our key differentiators as compared to competing solutions. Okay, I've answered, those are all the questions I see on the chat. And I'm gonna go back over to Q&A. And I think, yeah, and we answered all the questions on the POT side as well. So if anyone wanted to unmute and ask a last question, otherwise we've gone 75 minutes and we appreciate all your time. So did anyone else want to ask anything? Okay, no. Maureen, did you want to add anything?
No, other than you did a fantastic job again. We're very excited about the POTS replacement marketing kit that Mary's done. We also have a fast failover marketing in a box kit. If you don't have that, ask your channel manager. It's a fantastic tool to use with your clients. And the last thing would be look for us. This will be sent out to everybody, like we said. It'll also be posted to our YouTube channel, where it has all of our previous recorded webinars on there. So it's a great